It was unclear what the future held for my guest today, but this is genuinely the most inspiring story, and I think genuinely proves that if you believe in yourself and your idea and you put yourself out there, incredible things can happen. She is the founder of a business that has raised 30 million and turns over 50 million a year, workforce that has ranged between 200 and 400 people, a massive 62,500 square foot factory, and pretty much nailed it when it comes to the brief of being a solid girl boss.
Social skills, street smart, knew how to communicate with people, knew how to handle myself. And that is really what I had to focus on because I wasn't academic. So as long as I do love people, like I do love communicating, I do love working with people, I love sales, but not like I wouldn't necessarily have gone into a sales role. I'm just good at selling naturally something that I'm doing or that I'm passionate about, just from having good communication skills. So I've always sort of gone into salesy roles. But because we was talking about like literally where I started, it was glass collecting, it was then bar work. I then left school, tried college. Live your true self, live your true authentic self and do what you enjoy. As long as you're not hurting somebody else, do you. We went from 17 million turnover to 56
million pound turnover.
Yeah. Most of my success is from wanting to just prove people wrong, not from an internal ego, more from like, how dare you like just belittle me like that or judge me or tell me I can't. Let's see.
My name is Claudia Green and this is She Did That, the podcast shining a spotlight on remarkable women who are breaking barriers and proving that greatness knows no gender. From female founders who have raised millions of pounds, the investors changing the landscape as we know it, to survivors of tragedy who have achieved the amazing and many more. We will share the stories of these incredible women who will inspire and empower you. In order to support us and these women, please subscribe on your viewing or listening channel of choice so we can continue our mission of sharing the stories that should and need to be heard.
From growing up in Grimsby, from very humble beginnings, from a working class family, to not being the most academic at school, it was unclear what the future held for my guest today. But this is genuinely the most inspiring story, and I think genuinely proves that if you believe in yourself and your idea and you put yourself out there, incredible things can happen. She is the founder of a business that has raised 30 million and turns over 50 million a year, workforce that has ranged between 200 and 400 people, a massive 62,500 square foot factory, and pretty much nailed it when it comes to the brief of being a solid girl boss. She's not what you'd expect. When she walks into a room, you would never imagine that she's in the industry she's in, which is why I love her so much. And I've been trying to get her on the show for a really long time, so I'm extremely pleased. With that, I will introduce you to Jordan Brompton of Myenergi.
Hey.
Thank you for being here.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Well, this was very fateful. So I've stalked you for the best part of a year.
I love that.
No, I really have. I pretty much know what you're up to all the time in the least creepy way.
I love that. I think you know more about my life and where I'm at than I do at the minute. I come in like a whirlwind and you're like,
Possibly.
You were supposed to be at a talk this morning, weren't you? I'm like, yes.
Yeah,
why I'm
see,
here.
I do. I know I know your schedule. Yeah, so it just proves that persistence pays off.
Yeah.
Because it was very fateful that you happened to be in London and then your event got cancelled this morning. And then
I was like, hey, why not? Let's film.
I love that. Well, I'm excited to delve into your full story. I think because there are a lot of parts of it that really ring true with my story as well, which I love, and also just the pure hustle and grind of getting to where you are now is incredible.
Thank you.
So from Grimsby.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should.
No, it's because I do it at Grimsby.
Grimsby.
My baby.
I'm going to do that a few times. Sorry. You're from Grimsby.
Yeah.
And tell me about early life. Maybe let's go from like teenage years or like secondary school.
Secondary school, okay. I had a really nice childhood, very, very like working class. council house, council estate, Grimsby, real hard-working parents. Like my dad's always worked offshore, so we used to be month on, month off, but I never felt like I went without anything. So I loved our home life. We got our holiday like once a year or whatever. Didn't feel like I went without. But school, I wasn't really into ever. I loved the social aspect of it, but I was never very academic. And I had a lot of friends at school, but not like one solid group that I'm still friends with now. I was like a social butterfly. I'm just always interested by people, so I flitted around, and it was a really big school, my secondary school. So I was interested. I've always been interested in people, whether it's like the geeks, whether it's like the popular kids. I just loved observing people and being friends with everyone. And I always had a lot of guy friends. And to be honest, I had a nice childhood, but I always wanted to work. I always wanted my own money because I understood how hard my mum and dad worked to give us everything that we had. And I always knew, I watched my dad hate his job like all his life, wake up super early, hate his job just to put like money on the table. And then I guess when I was at school, I started to meet other like social classes. Yeah. And I had friends that were super wealthy. I used to go to the houses and be like, Jesus Christ, they like lived in the posh part of town, which I didn't know existed. And they had like,
I was going to say, is there a posh part of Grimsby?
There is. Okay. They had like trampolines, they had horses, they had, things that you're like, wow, swimming pools. And I used to just be obsessed then with what their parents did and how they made money. And then the second I was old enough to get a job, I got a job. Like I used to work on the Sunday market down in Cleethorpes when I was like 12.
12? Is that even legal?
Like, no, definitely not legal. But, whatevs. There was like, it was for my like uncle at the time who was selling scooters, and it was before scooters were a thing. Like little...
Do you mean like the micro scooters?
Micro scooters, yeah. It was before they even, like, it was at the beginning of that trend.
Yeah.
And I remember him selling them for £15 and he bought them for a £5. So I was like, oh... Like,
great
wow.
margins.
Yeah, decent margins. And then he used to give me a few quid for every scooter I sold or whatever. And that was an early introduction to business. And then I would do like paper rounds, and then I'd do glass collecting. Like I just couldn't wait to be going out in the bars and clubs and stuff.
Oh, glass collecting sorry, I was imagining you picking up pieces of glass.
No, like literally picking up glasses when people had finished a drink in a pub and clean them. Because you was allowed to do that. That's a whole job. And you was allowed to do that from 16. So it meant that you could be in like bars with the adults. Oh. You weren't allowed to work behind the bar, but you was allowed to glass collect. So I used to do that. So I got a night out.
Well,
technically I did, because I'd meet all the people and I'd get tips. I got like introduced to how the world works very early on. I had to like look after myself. You're around drunk blokes all the time.
Yeah.
You're a young 16-year-old lass. Like you learn how to handle yourself.
But you must be quite like a naturally switched on person. I feel like you either are or you aren't. You can't teach that stuff.
I guess growing up in Grimsby, one thing that I realised that I am more than now that I hang out in London, not saying that London folk aren't street smart, because they bloody are, but in the north of England, I guess street smarts was one of the things that I really had. Social skills, street smart, knew how to communicate with people, knew how to handle myself. And that is really what I had to focus on, because I wasn't academic. So as long as I do love people, like I do love communicating, I do love working with people, I love sales, but not like I wouldn't necessarily have gone into a sales role. I'm just good at selling naturally something that I'm doing or that I'm passionate about, just from having good communication skills. I've always sort of gone into salesy roles. But because we was talking about like literally where I started, it was glass collecting, it was then bar work. I then left school, tried college, because I was told at school that I could do travel and tourism or
what is it about traveling? I was told at school, he said you should be a travel agent, and I was like, but I want to go on the holidays, not book them for other people. What is it about telling people, like young
They were my
girls?
two options, well 3, social worker, travel and tourism, or hairdressing. And I was like, well, my mum's a hairdresser, so I'll try hairdressing. Yeah. I was allergic to all the products, so I got like dermatitis because I'm a natural ginge. I'm like, I totally melt out at anything that's put on my skin. So I had like rashes all up my arms, on my neck.
Oh, that's not the career
fingers.
for you. Oh,
so I was like
God.
bleeding. I was like, this isn't working. isn't working, although it was a good laugh.
I bet it was a good laugh.
Then I was like, went and worked at Burger King.
Did you?
Just to get some
That wasn't
cash
in my research when I was looking at things, looking about
and then
what
they
you've done
made
in
me
the
do a
past.
24-hour shift and clean the cookers and everything with my friends.
That's not
and said
legal.
they'd pay me
Burger King,
extra.
that's not legal.
Then they didn't pay me. So I went into work on a Saturday, wait until it got dead busy, and then walked out because they refused to pay me. So that was my first experience of being treated like shit by an employer.
But Burger King, you don't, a big corporate like that.
Yeah, well, they don't care about in the local little branches. It's like, it's the ghetto.
Did you get free chips at least?
Yeah, every dinner, free chips and a burger. And then what did I do? Then I went to work in nightclubs and I got to know a really great nightclub owner at the time who was buying up all the different spots in Grimsby and Cleethorpes. So I used to work in his restaurants, then I'd go and work in his bars, and then I'd go dance at the clubs because I was a dancer as well. Like not a stripper.
No,
like
I wasn't thinking. My mind didn't go there.
Not that there's anything wrong with that either. But I was literally a podium dancer, so I was working 3 jobs at like one point. Oh my God. And like coining it in and loving life, and bought my first little car. And then I got to see how the nightclub scenes run and learned a lot from him. And then I got headhunted to work in the college to look after the international students.
Yeah.
And then I used to work with international students like the Chinese and Indians that came over to get educated in Grimsby, and I was the student liaison
officer. They came from all the way from China and India.
Yeah, and it was my job to recruit them and to convince them that Grimsby is better than London. So that's how good a salesperson I am.
You don't need Imperial College, you need Grimsby.
I used to say, I'll take you on trips to like London and Sheffield. So I had to do that so that they could go and get the shopping fix, but then keep them in Grimsby. And then I used to work with the local nightclubs to make sure that they were putting on good nights for the students, and I'd throw Freshers Week parties, and I had an ace time there. Then I went and did a bit of travelling around the world and back. And then when I got back, I met Lee, and that's where the whole Myenergi story starts.
I love this. Wait, but 1 second. We didn't go into the dancing bit. You're a dancer.
Yeah.
Since when?
So I've always danced and sung. Like I can dance, sing, and I did acting. Like so I went to theatre school. So when I was in like theatre school, say that lightly, but it was like our local one. I loved that. I loved anything after school. I loved all the classes, the dance classes, ballet tap, modern street, jazz.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Acting, singing.
Did you want to like
guitar lessons?
Did you everything?
I wanted to be Beyonce's backing dancer. I wanted to be a backing dancer like all my life.
But you have such main character energy. Why would you want to be Beyonce's backing dancer?
Because I didn't want the fame I didn't want the fame. It still scares me. Like any sort of idea of just being famous for famous sake. That would be horrifying. But I loved the idea of being on tour with them, but being able to walk the streets.
Yeah, see, I used to want to, I sing, so I used to want to be famous. I went to a Britney concert at Wembley. Yeah. Wembley Arena.
Wow.
And I remember she was performing something like, I'm a slave. That's not how I sing. And I decided to turn my body, because I was on the side, to the other side, and I'm singing and I'm dancing and I'm pretending that crowd is mine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Feeding off the energy.
Yeah, that didn't happen for me. But I'm actually really glad it didn't.
Because they're all like messed up, aren't they? Bless them.
They're not in a good place. No. And I don't want people to know me. I go to the local shopping centre like in my pyjamas with shades on, because I'm like, I don't want to see Katie from school. Sorry.
No, exactly.
No shade on Katie from school. I want to see you.
So I guess I wanted to do something creative. And I did try for a little bit, like something that a lot of people don't know about me. I went to an X Factor audition when I was 16, because my mum and dad were like, you should go because you can sing. And then I did the audition. I was like, because I was so nervous singing in front of people, the voice didn't come out. So I wasn't trained to like audition.
Yeah, it's very different. You can tell like the polished theatre school kids.
I am not polished. Yeah, it was just like self-taught bit of local Grimsby theatre school and nothing ever outside of Grimsby really. And I went to a few like auditions in London for stuff, and the girls were just so mean that it terrified me out of there. Like one girl had glass crushed into her dance shoes so that she couldn't audition. And when I went down there, I had like, do you remember character shoes where you have like little heel on your character ugly. Shoes? Yeah, I had them on and like this little gold top, and the girls in the toilet were absolutely ripping the piss out of me and then locked me in the toilet. And I was like, no.
They locked you in the toilet.
Yeah, and I thought I was Grimsby street smart, but I am not London street smart, and that devastated me. And I was only young, so I just came back. I was like, I'm not doing that again.
No, you're just not a horrible person.
I'm not doing it. I'm not cut out for this stuff. I feel like people that have literally dedicated their lives to doing this have a different type of energy, where I just loved it.
Me too.
And I'm not fully committed that this is going to be a career, and I didn't know what a career looked like. And I guess that was growing up in a small town. I didn't know what you had to put in.
But it's the attitudes though that scared me, as in that's instilled by their parents. They didn't develop that themselves, and they were so jazz handsy and fake friendly.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not good with passive aggressiveness, fake friendliness. Like, I'd rather you just say I don't like you.
Yeah.
And I really struggled, and I thought mentally I wouldn't cope in that sort of environment.
No.
But, you strike me as someone similar. You would not cope in a very superficial, fake environment.
No, not at all. And it is like that. Like, I never did dance festivals and stuff. It just wasn't a thing where... And my mum would never be like that either. She didn't like the scene of the dance mom scene, and, you know, like stitching your own gear and like eyeballing the other kids and like the really pushy mums. So I just did it because I just literally loved it and thought, and I was too young. Like, I've only just really settled into my skin and got my confidence in my 30s. Like, if I had this energy now, I'd probably go and slay. But I didn't.
That's how I feel as well.
Yeah.
Like, I hit 30 and I was like, I woke up and I was like, I suddenly give no fucks about what anyone thinks about me.
And your 30s is where it's at. Like, your 30s is, and it just gets more and more prominent. And I'm really enjoying that part of like this stage of my life for that reason. Like, I really don't care anymore, and I am so comfortable. Even to the point where I went to a sexy dance class the other day for the first time.
Did you?
You know, so I always look at these girls on like the on Instagram and stuff, like shaking the thing and in the little shorts, and I'm like, so envious, because I've got good rhythm and I do love to dance, and I've become quite friendly with Lindsay Kane, Russell Kane's wife, and she's like an absolute badass that's got a podcast, that's got a business in.
We followed each other on Instagram last night.
She's amazing.
She's beautiful as well.
Insanely beautiful.
Okay, yeah.
Mancunian, so she's northern, and she's just gritty and honest and raw, and like I've just fell in love with her. And she put a dance class on, and I was like, I'm driving to Manchester. Well, I didn't. I ended up getting the train, but got the train to Manchester just for the dance class and come home. And it was so much fun. I was like, I need to do more stuff like that, which feeds my younger self.
Yeah.
There's no judgment, because we're all similar age, and doing it just to have a laugh and not trying to make a career of it. It's all for the creative, just to feel a bit freer and sexy and feminine. And I loved it.
I think that is the great thing about, I used to dread going into my 30s. I mean, I'll be old, so who cares if I get rich? Because I won't care if I'm rich and old. Obviously, I now know 30s and old. But the self-assurance, the like level of confidence, and having much more of, I don't know if you feel like I could not take any criticism in my 20s at all. And it's how it's delivered still. But I am now in a place where like I can say, I want your feedback. Yeah. And genuinely want it.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, I think when you're young, like when you're in your early 20s, late teens, mid 20s, you think you've got it all figured out, don't you? You think you know everything that the world could possibly teach you. And then when when you become more older and wiser, you realise that the more you know, the more you don't know. And you're just okay with that, and but you're a lot more comfortable in yourself, and you become thicker skinned, especially if you're running a business, especially if you're in the public eye, especially if you're doing like lots of things on the internet, because it can be a dark place at times. You just learn to be like, I could be Mother frickin' Teresa. I could give my entire walk down the street and give my entire net worth away, and someone would still call me a slag. So I'm not bothered anymore.
Do you know what? There's always someone that's going to throw shade.
Yeah.
But it's often jealousy as well.
It's no matter what you do. So who cares? Just live like your best life. Live your true self. Live your true authentic self, and do what you enjoy. As long as you're not hurting somebody else, do you, boo.
Do you, boo. This is going in the trailer. But you've been with your partner a really long time. You met him really young, didn't you?
Yeah, I've been with him 15 years.
See, from that perspective, obviously you've evolved as a person, you've grown in confidence. How's that affected your relationship? Like, did you grow together?
Yeah, completely. So he's a little bit older. He's like 6-7 years older.
I thought you were going to say he's like 60 or 70.
No, just a few. Not that much. Not that there's anything wrong with that either.
No, that's absolutely fine. Not judge.
No judgment. But he's like, the good thing about Mike, he is so settled and content with his lot, and he always has been.
Yeah.
So he was happy when we were brassic, like skin, and I was like taking out a 20 grand loan against our house to start the business. Like, he's just always backed me. He's always been my number one supporter. He's always like, he's just always been the bedrock. He is the reason why I've had success, because I can go home and I've got my absolute rock by my side to support me. He's always on my side. He's very, very real with me as well, though. If I'm being like brat era, if I'm being a brat, or if I'm being the one that's the problem, he'll be like, oh, you maybe shouldn't have said that, Jord, or you shouldn't have handled it like that. Or he'll be like, no, you're absolutely effing right, and you need to actually double down on that. Or you know, just going home and having that someone to sense check things with. And he's got no ego. He's like, you won't mind me saying it, but he's not even like the most ambitious person in the world. Like, he's not been wanting to grow his career or anything like that.
But
so
that's
we've got a really good,
Yeah.
We've got a really good like yin and yang relationship. If I didn't have him, I'd probably be crazy and be skint again, because I'd have blitzed all my money. And he keeps me sensible. And well, I don't know. He says recently I've created a monster, because he has been going a bit crazy. He's just built out his full gym and stuff like that. And he's
that's all right.
Yeah,
it's not like he's like diamond encrusted a Lamborghini.
Oh no, nothing like that. But we just really balance each other out.
Yeah,
and
he sounds like he's
we've
very
grown together. He's safe,
chill, like laid back, chilled.
So chilled.
Like
until he can't find his keys or
inducing.
something, and then he's so dramatic. It's like. He sweats the small stuff, where I'm like really good with the big stressful stuff. So that's how we like.
Yeah. But I bet that's really helped in being parents as well. It's like having that great level.
Yeah.
And you being able to pursue, if you're working longer hours as well, like him being able to be there.
I couldn't have, again, done it without him. So if both our ambitions were crazy, we'd be like constantly butting heads over whose career was more important, whose business was more important, how would you balance all that out and have a daughter. And it's we took the decision when I had some financial success with Myenergi, because I sold some shares. It was like, let's retire you so that I don't have to feel mum guilt, instead of like going out and buying the Lambo. Why don't we invest it in our home life, so that you can come with me, so that we can remove any stress, so that we can remove any guilt. So it allows me to do this, like, and the travel with me.
And your daughter has a parent with her. Yeah. Instead of a nanny.
Bonnie's homeschooled, so she's in Hyde Park at the minute with her dad, like, and learning all about London. And do you know what I mean? It's just nice. We've built our life to suit us as a couple and as a family.
So he's not really retired because he's got a homeschool.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so he is working.
He grafts, yeah. It's hard work, isn't it?
That is a graft.
Yeah.
Homeschool
Exactly.
a whole person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of responsibility. But yeah, no, that's amazing. That's incredible. So I want to focus on how you went from picking up dirty beer glasses into a multi-million pound energy empire. So let's take it back to, because obviously I've done lots of research. I mean, obviously being a stalker, I should know lots about you. But I've done my research, and I heard a podcast where you talked about the fact that you'd got an admin job for your now business partner, Lee.
Yeah.
And he had these gadgets. In layman's terms.
Yeah, no, that's bang on. So I'd been around the world and back on like this, like that sounds dead fancy, but it was like just backpacking around the world.
In a dirty hostel,
Yeah. And I got back and I was like, what am I going to do with my life? And I was teaching Zumba, and it was bringing in a bit of money, but it was keeping me fit, scratching my dance itch. And I met a woman there who said, we're looking for some admin work in this business that we've got in Binbrook, which is a little village outside of Grimsby. And I was like, right, I'll come meet everybody. Walked in. There was only about, I don't know, I think there was about 5 or 6 people at the time. And there was engineers and a few solderers and like this one saleswoman. And that is where I met Lee. I walked in, I thought, what are you doing in here? It's like this little shed in Binbrook, and they were like hand soldering these little gizmos, like literally. And I didn't know anything about the industry, didn't know anything about renewables. And I was just going in as an admin job because I needed some admin support.
Yeah.
Naturally being me, admin was never going to cut it. So I was doing the admin, but then I was also like selling, and then I started going to the trade shows, and then I started bringing in some of their biggest accounts, and I was like, oh my God, I've actually got a flair for this, and I really, really like the industry. And then I really got on with Lee, the guy who'd invented it, because I just thought he was brilliant. But unfortunately, his business went out of business. The government with renewables has been a bit of a whirlwind ride. Like, they pull subsidies, there's booms, there's peaks, there's troughs. We call it the solar coaster. So it's in the solar and renewables industry. So it's like, they were doing really well. They sold like 25,000 units, which was a lot. We manufactured them all in Binbrook, but then the lights just went out overnight. A load of his electricians like couldn't afford to buy them anymore. They went out of business. Wholesalers went out of business. And I was just like, oh, that's a shame. That's the end of that then. And I was like, love you all. Said to Lee, if you ever want to do something in the future, let me know. But we parted ways for a bit. And I went off and set up another business in cycling randomly, because I had a friend who was a keen cyclist and French and had very broken English, but had exclusive partnerships in France. And I was like, well, look, I've just done that for another business. I've built a whole sales structure selling through small independent shops and large online retailers.
And selling something quite random. What was the product you were selling?
The previous one.
Yeah.
So it was a little device that diverted solar power to a hot water tank. So if you've got a home, solar panels on the roof, you're at work in the daytime, you couldn't afford a battery because they were extortionate at that time, this little device would strike up the power to your immersion heater and give you a full tank of hot water to match what the solar was doing. So when you got home from work, you didn't have to turn on the heating and pull all the energy from the grid. You had a fresh tank.
Oh, that's
hot
brilliant.
Tank of water.
So I remember my mum always saying, oh, we've got to put the
the immersion on
for
your hot water.
Got hot water.
So this would just trickle heat the tank while you was at work from the sun, and then when you got home, you had a nice tank of hot water.
In England?
Yeah, we get it.
Okay.
So that was what he was selling.
And then the bikes, was it like bike accessories?
It was like tyres, bearings, chain rings, some clothing.
Okay.
And we got some traction with that. Like, I did it for 2 years. I managed to get to a point where I was paying myself £30,000 a year, which for me was like massive in Grimsby. I had a little car, little warehouse. And then lo and behold, Lee comes knocking on my door and says, do you want to come back into renewables? Because I know you loved it and I want to do it again. Yeah. And I was like, he went, the only problem is I've got no brand, no customers, no manufacturing equipment. I've got 100k left though that I made out of the business after the insolvency. And he was like, I could go get a job and just pay that off my house, but if you wanted to start a business, I'd go into it with you. And I was like, okay, but I want shares. I want like in on this. If I'm going to do it, like close my business down. Yeah, I want to go like in, and I'll put a 20 grand loan in and we'll go from there. So I was like, spoke to Mikey, took a loan out, put it in, everything we had, that was the equity in our house at that point.
Oh my goodness.
So
the rest is history. But like your partner, not Lee, Mike.
Yeah, Mikey, yeah.
Like it really was like a joint decision.
He knew I loved that industry. And he was like, if anyone can do it, like I believe you can, because he knew that I'd got the customers and everything previously and the relationships, and I'd been building my LinkedIn to be very renewables focused. Yeah. And I'd kept in touch. I didn't turn it into like cycling focused. I kept in touch with all my renewable contacts.
That's smart.
Because I thought one day I'll probably do some consultancy or stay in the space. And then when Lee came knocking, I was like, mate, I said, actually, he came knocking in July. And I said, I'm getting married in September. So I'm like bridezilla at the minute. Let me go on my honeymoon in October and I'll come and join you and we'll hit the ground running in November. So he started with the engineers like tinkering, getting the product, which was the hot water product, and some early developments of the car charger. And while I was on my honeymoon, while I was away, we were sending each other like logos, like ideas, company names, getting the basics set up, like all of basics.
That. Which I think are like the hardest decisions. You're like, I don't know what logo to go with.
Exactly. So it was all like the fun stuff, the building at the beginning, and then literally November, I was like, right, give me a data sheet because I'm off to start getting us some customers and pre-orders while you're figuring out how to make this thing.
I love that. And did you get pre-orders?
Yeah.
That's a big thing. Like, hi, do you want to buy this thing? It's not built yet and I can't show it to you.
Yeah.
do you want one?
I'd just show them a data sheet and be like, it goes into production early next year or in the summer, whenever it was. And do you want to be the first to have it?
Who was your target market? Like, who were you selling to?
Electricians and people that had solar panels fitted or were getting solar panels.
Okay. And how much would this device cost?
It was like £365 at the time.
Are you allowed to talk about margins there?
It was healthy. Okay. I've got to be careful because we're still selling it. But yeah, it's because we manufacture in the UK, it's really healthy margins.
Yeah.
That's one thing as well that people are surprised by with manufacturing in the UK, that you'd make anything, but you actually do. And that's why we were really committed to building a manufacturing plant in the UK as well. Yeah. Which we have. Yeah. From the ground up, like a full factory.
Wow. Okay, so you experienced like a little bit of early success.
Yeah. I mean, it was a hustle, don't get me wrong, because nothing ever goes right with tech at the beginning, and we were late to launch. I had to manage expectations with customers. We'd taken deposits. We couldn't afford to pay staff. Like, it hasn't just been it hasn't been like a straightforward success story. One of our who's now a shareholder of Myenergi, he actually lent us 11 grand one month. He got a loan out himself because we were that short on payroll 1 month. So like one of our engineers loaned us 11 grand. And that's why he's like now a shareholder in the EMI scheme, because he did that,
Yeah, he really believed in it.
Yeah, he helped.
That's incredible.
When we were short. So, it's like not been easy at any step of the journey, even on the up, even at the height of like the scaling. We went from 1 year, 17 million turnover to 56
million pound turnover.
Yeah. It was crazy. Like we had crazy growth for like a couple of years because the government had tariffs, that you could, the tariffs, they had subsidies. Yeah. So you could get a subsidy for a car charger and you could get a subsidy for solar, and you got VAT savings, and there was a lot sort of pushing you that way, especially after COVID. Then all of a sudden they pulled it overnight and everything went to shit, but you always have to deal with that as well. Luckily the market's still growing, but it just wasn't growing like vertically. It's now like more linear and organic.
But you'd gone from like how quickly... Your first year of trading, how big was your team versus your third year?
Oh God, I can't remember. But if I was to like hazard a guess, from the first year of trading, it was like 6 or 7 people. Then it was about 20, 30 people, maybe a bit more by the third year. Then at one point it got up to like 400 people worldwide. Whoa. And then it shrunk back down over the past few years to about 250 worldwide.
Still a lot.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So we've experienced extreme highs, like extreme lows in the business, because it's very political, renewables and electric vehicles, and the media love to slam it. And
how can you slam something that's helping the environment?
They will though. Everything's politicized these days, isn't it? So it seemed like after COVID, everything really took off, and I think it took off too fast for like the oil lobby and the media. And maybe the legacy car manufacturers that had to switch all of their production lines to go electric wanted to slow the fast pace of the industry, how fast it had bolted. So they've done a very good job, not the legacy car manufacturers, but the media and the governments around the world have done a very good job at slamming like electric vehicles and slamming the brakes on. But luckily, like the masses have opened their eyes to it. And because there are genuinely good products on the market, like good cars, electric cars, once you've owned one, you don't tend to go back. So as they're also like selling themselves now.
I don't have any electric chargers where I am.
Don't you?
No, and then they wanted me to pay £2,000 and I was like,
no. But just to take it like back a step, the water heater was what we developed with. What we went to market with and what we developed first. Yeah. And then what really catapulted us was the electric car charger, because it was the first in the world to charge off your solar panels. Yeah. It was the first in the world to charge off a home's solar panels and give you a completely free girl math free charge, because you've still paid for your solar.
Yeah. But
it's a free charge. Yeah.
Also, it has to be like a hell of a lot cheaper than going and filling up your petrol tank with £60-70 ago.
So much cheaper.
But you've still got, I mean, obviously you've got to charge it for like a reasonably
but it's still cheap.
significant amount of time.
Even if you're paying full price for the charge, like expensive energy prices, it's still cheaper than petrol.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that it's...
And the common like misconception is that you need it charged from 0% to 100% every night or all the time. You don't. You just like literally topping it up as you go.
Like a mobile phone.
Exactly. And you plug it in at night and jobs are good.
Honestly, I should get an electric car, even though I don't know if it will change the habit, but the amount of times when I was younger, I used to break down because I'd run out of petrol. I was like, I'm sure it's got a 30-mile reserve. I heard a rumour. And then I'd be on the middle of a dual carriageway and I'd be like, no.
Yeah.
And then I'd pull over and then you'd see me like legging it up the M1 with a green can of petrol and then have, you know, the little beak with the feeder and people just hooting as they go past because I'm in the middle of a dual carriageway feeding it with petrol. And I thought, there must be a better way. Yeah.
I ran out of battery in Scotland on a road trip and that was chaos. I just saw the little turtle come onto the screen and I was like, oh no. And we got to a charger and it didn't work. This was the early days when there was no charging infrastructure at all. And then the next charger was like 8 miles away and I already had the turtle mode on where it's just like bunny hopping you on its last legs. Like, and I had a dual carriageway to go and the AA had to come and get me. I was like, this is not a career highlight. This is when I was proper growing the business. Go online and be like, these electric cars.
Yeah, not good PR.
No.
Okay.
I'm making your water. Because you're not drinking it.
You know I'm
thirsty as a badger.
I'm not good at hydrating myself. How are you supposed to be all these things? You're like, work out, hydrate, do skincare, then run a business.
I'm a marketer's dream, so I'll buy anything that hacks the system.
Yeah.
I'm like...
Me too.
Yeah. I'm like, Botox,
TikTok ads.
do it.
Yeah.
That face cream does that, buy it. That TikTok trend's doing that, I'll do it. This pill makes me skinny, I'll take it. This patch makes me healthy, I'll put it on. Anything to avoid like working out and eating broccoli.
I just bought some salmon sperm.
So jealous.
Face mask.
So jealous. I'm definitely going to get now I've seen Kimmy K do it, I'm going to get the salmon sperm injected into my neck, the peptides and stuff. I'll try anything. I went for a face gym the other day as well. Have you been for one of them?
I have and I love it. Actually, I've been trying to get the founder of Face Gym on here.
So good. Please get him on there. Please.
Come on.
And tell them to grow the business out in Australia because I just bought my friend for her 40th a face gym. I think there's 2 people trained in the entirety of Australia.
Really?
And she was like, oh my God, I love this. How is this not more of a thing?
It's brilliant, isn't it?
So
Innovation.
Good. Oh, look at us plug-in. I don't even know them.
I know.
There you go. Free plug.
Yeah, there you go. So when was Zappy released? What year?
Oh my God, 2017.
So quite...
Or 2018. Oh God,
so
I
quite
don't know.
soon,
I'm crap with memory.
Quite,
I think
quite soon after you'd actually formed the business.
Our first version of it, we got to market pretty quick.
And the one thing I wanted to ask you was obviously because the industry you're in, it's super innovative and once researched properly, it's extremely important.
Yeah.
But like you said, with governmental changes and differing opinions, it's been very much a roller coaster. How have you weathered the lows? Good partner. It's a massive one. Good team. I've got really amazing team around me and obviously good family. It's been tough. There's been moments where, many moments actually, where I've gone, I'm not cut out for this and I'm throwing the towel in and this is just too much and too stressful. But then I guess the love of it and the highs are worth the lows. So the wins are make it worth it and keep driving you through. But it's been a decade, not going to lie. It's been an emotional roller coaster. I've suffered burnout real bad. I've actually recently taken a step back. So I was going to mention that. I'm not in the day-to-day job anymore because I'd gone from I didn't know, when you start a business, you don't know what to call yourself. I called myself business development director because I thought that sounded important. Then I realised no, actually, there's a whole thing around co-founders and that's what I am. So led with co-founder and business development director. Then, because I was business development director, I was running the sales and marketing team, not just in the UK, but globally through all of the climb, through all of the peak, up into the 60 million turnover. So I was and then I was now I'm scared. We decided as a board to
pull in some professional salespeople to help take us to that next level. So we got some salespeople in and board level people, new CEO. And I thought, why am I like up every night stressed out of my nut when I have sold some shares? Why am I still stressing so much? Like, surely what's the time? Like it's been 8 years. Maybe I can take my foot off the gas a little bit and do more of an advisor role at the board and board level, because that is what I like to focus on. And I also invested in some other businesses and advise at board level. And I really enjoy that part of it. So I was like, I think now's the time, now that we've found a CEO, to take a step back, not have the immense pressure, because we have monthly board meetings. Savage. Like, monthly board meetings is brutal. You spend your entire life planning for the board meeting, and it got exhausting for me. I was too burnt out and not enjoying the job anymore. And I didn't want to fall out of love with my own company. So I thought, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to advise from a healthy distance. Saves the company some money, because I was like on a decent salary as well. And it means that I've got freedom to go and do whatever I want to do. You know, like lean into whatever I do. I love public speaking, love helping young founders, love advising at board level, like investing, love podcasting, like writing books. So I just thought, I'm going to step back and do some creative stuff and enjoy some family time and just see where the world takes me.
Yeah, because you've got this like now unbelievable sort of near decade under your belt of unbelievably valuable experience and insights, and like those shared, if you share those with people, think of the impact it could make, even if you're just looking at the female entrepreneur community. Sharing some of those insights with them is so powerful as well.
So powerful. And I've got a female mentor. It wasn't like, it's like an accident mentor, who I go to and sit with like once a quarter or half a year and just like brain dump on her. And she's brilliant. Like, she's a few years ahead of me. She's big corporate. She's been, you know, self-made, similar upbringings, northern. And she's been like, just having her has been game changing. So if I can do that for a young entrepreneur and just impact one person's life and help them make better decisions when they're like raising cash, when they're building a board, when they're hiring a senior leadership team, when they're getting the imposter syndrome, when they're even like early, like at the minute I'm advising like one of the companies that I invested in, and they're just at go-to-market stage. So it's helping them like, because I'm saying to them, go and get some sales before you go and raise like more cash. Like you've had a lot of cash, now go and get the sales. Like, proof is in the, and I'm helping people structure like how they might approach and get sales. And so yeah, and branding. I've always loved branding. I've always had an eye for it.
Oh God, you can help me with mine then.
You're doing a good job. Oh yeah, for your new business.
For my new business.
Yeah.
No. I've muddled through thus far, but my new business, 100%. Yeah. I think the thing is that when I started my business over 5 years ago, and I went in really blind, and my goal was, if I can make what I made in my last role, which was £60,000 a year, but do it for myself and not have to report into massive misogynistic assholes, then I've won. And I did that, and then it grew and grew, and I was like, oh,
congratulations, that's mega.
Shit, I've got to hire. And then I had this, and I'm like you, like I'm really open about my journey. My first full, like proper first year of trading, not like the first few muddly months of like getting a website together, I sat with my accountant, and he was like, congratulations. And I was like, for what? I was in a total haze. I was just trying to get the work done. And he was like, you've just turned over $500,000 in your first year.
That's amazing.
And I was like, how did I do that? I kind of always knew it was in me, but then...
And what was the business doing? Was this the recruitment or the
recruitment,
consultancy? On your own?
On my own subscription model. And it was all men at that time, like with their own... And they had a bit of money, they had business partners, they had proper marketing to do. And I was just trading off my name and a shitty website. And... For me, I got to a point where there were a couple of competitors, I say competitors, but they'd grown to that point where they weren't at $500,000. They were solidly at sort of $5 million a year. And I said, I don't know how to get from 500,000 to 5 million. And like, I'm happy to admit that. I think in a lot of ways I could do it, but there are certain things and certain skills that you need to take it to that next level. And when it comes to logistics, operations, reporting, financials, those things, it's not me. I'm a salesperson, I'm client facing, you know, and that's where like the deficit is. And, you know, I had times where I was just crying my eyes out. Like, I wish I had an advisor. I just need to phone someone who knows what this is. But I even considered calling a competitor. They would have told me to F off and been like, hey, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. No, I did that. I did that. I was the same. Like, how the hell do you scale the business? How the hell do I get sales? I know, I'll go to a competitor because they're just down the road and maybe we can put our tech in their product because they're doing really well.
Did they tell you to F off?
Oh, yeah. Horrendous, misogynistic bell end, if I'm honest. And I thought, no, you will be my competitor now, mate. You know, like that stuff fires me as well, fires me up. So I was like, right, okay, you'll regret that. You know, don't want to help us, that's fine. This is why
advisors are so important. And I say females because we are on a back foot. If just look at the statistics when it comes to being backed, we're completely on a back foot. And the point that I make is that you could put all the opportunities out there in the world where you say, okay, equal opportunities, come women, men, anyone, any kind of person, you're welcome. But there's generational trauma, there's generational gaps in education where you weren't considered worthy of educating on certain topics.
Unconscious
bias, imposter syndrome, which I never thought. I'm the first one that will like say that I could go into a Google meeting with 300 people and I would just stand on a chair and hold my own. And maybe I could, but when it came to actually being my business and growing it from 500,000 to the next level, which I haven't done yet. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And I think having female advisors who you can speak frankly to. And say,
and about
like,
money and about amounts.
Yes.
And knowing what that means and what you can do with it and how much you should be paying yourself and how much is successful. Like when you've been brought up with nothing, and you mess ups and having, because let's face it, like being a female's tough because you get it from, there's females in the industry or in your industry or around that don't want you to succeed as well. So you've got it against, you've got to go against females that don't want you to succeed and that are competitive and territorial, and you've got to go against males that just don't give a shit. And what I've realised is when I was on the scale up and on the climb, everybody was very welcoming and very open and nice. The second that you've made something of yourself or you're at the top, it's then like, how do we drag this person down? Or
really, are you still finding that?
Oh yeah, it's actually worse, I think, the higher up the corporate ladder you climb.
I was on the phone to one of my best friends and she's made a huge success of herself, and it all started when we were flatmates and it was just like a bedroom business for her, and now she's absolutely nailing it. And I said to her, some people had crawled out the woodwork, like, let's have coffee. And I said, just remember when they didn't want to make time for you and they weren't interested in your journey and they kind of like, oh, that's sweet. Yeah. Good luck. Yeah. And I said, be careful. Like, don't let those people crawl out the woodwork and like ride on your successful coattails, because
it happens.
You don't see yourself as successful, but you are. Yeah. And there are people that are going to come out and be like, hey, remember
Take advantage of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's smart. She's worldly, but it's tempting when emotions are involved and it's someone from your past.
When you're building stuff in the past, like so many people hold themselves back from what like their school friends or their town or whatever are going to say about them. And when I was trying to sell my business and grow an online profile and grow my personal brand, I was like getting the piss taken out of me loads from people in my area and like, you know, not being invited to parties or deleted out of WhatsApp groups or unfollowed on Instagram because you're posting too many videos about yourself or you're posting too many selfies. And then,
but it's all about self-promotion now.
Yeah. And then now it's thing, you see them start trying to do that themselves and come to you for advice. And it's like,
now you want to know.
Yeah. I was an absolute insecure idiot before that was like, oh, like you say, oh, bless.
Yeah,
no, bless. It's that patronising, bless. Cringe. She must be so insecure if she's online all the time. Like.
I mean, when I started my business, there were people literally that to my face, they were like, "Yeah, oh, you're going to start
That's cute.
a business.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I am. I actually, you reminded me of, one of the things you said reminded me of, I had a 2-day job. I got sacked after 2 days, not because of me, just because I think they found some cheap labour somewhere else. It was like an admin job at an estate agent. And he was sacking me, and I was 18 years old, and I was crying my eyes out. I was just like hysterically crying, and I was like, how could this happen? My family was so proud I got a steady job. And I was beside myself. And he turned around, he goes, you know what? You never know. Our paths may cross in the future. And in that moment, I just stopped crying, and I looked at him and I went, I've got bigger fish to fry than you.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I walked out, and it was like, if you could imagine like Amy Winehouse, tears dry on their own.
Yeah.
And I walked out, and I was like, right.
Yeah, that's it.
And it fuels you, those nasty people
who
do patronise you. Don't let them bring you down.
No.
Let them fuel that little fire inside your belly to be like,
prove them wrong.
Yeah, you're
most of my
fry.
success is from wanting to just prove people wrong, not from an internal ego, more from like, how dare you like just belittle me like that, or judge me, or tell me I can't. Let's see.
And it has an impact. It does have a lasting impact.
Do
you think that, like, obviously you've come from very humble beginnings, working class, completely working class family, living in a council house. Do you think success and money has changed you in any way?
Yeah, because it's not to the point where, like, hopefully that I'm being like flashy or a dickhead or anything like that. It's more like it does change you, because all of a sudden, I think Ricky Gervais said it, you become a bit like more spoiled. You see the nicer things in life, and you lean into it, you enjoy it, and you don't really go back to how you used to be. But I think in terms of me as a person, no, like I'm still that humble person from the beginning. I just like the nicer things now.
Still Geordie from the
block.
Yeah.
But I do like staying in nice places. I like going on nice holidays.
You've earned it though, you've worked for it.
Yeah, I've stopped buying. The interesting thing is I've stopped buying designer clothes. Like, I don't really buy designer.
You don't really
I did when I was skint, because I wanted to maybe prove a point. But then when you've had some money, you're like, I'm not wasting that much money on that. That is horrendous.
Yeah.
So it's put me off in that sense of like flashy designer clothes, essentially. She says, sat with a Gucci belt on. But I got this like years ago. I got this probably when I was skint.
You don't have to justify that.
But no, I've like stopped doing that, because I'd rather spend with Tala, Grace Beverley's site, or I'd rather spend locally with people in the UK that are making a success in like nice quality gear that's not ridiculously priced, that's comfy, just stuff like that. It's just my style's changed stuff. And I don't. I used to, growing up in Grimsby, if somebody had designer clothes on, that meant you'd made it. And I just see like success is different now. I see success as time with my family. I see it as a nice trip abroad. Yeah. I see it as maybe getting to fly business class or something, for me, that's like...
Hang on. You can fly first class. Yeah. You can do it.
It's just, I do like the nicest stuff, but I also just know how much people struggle as well. So I'm just very conscious of that, and just really grateful for the success. But try to stay like humble with it as well. And I've not changed like friendship circles too much. I'm still hanging around with everybody in Grimsby, still live in Grimsby.
Do you find that you pay for people more?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, I really want to go to this really nice restaurant. Yeah. I really want to go with you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or on holiday, bring your family with.
Yeah. I think those are the nice parts.
Take family and friends and stuff on holidays that I would want them to experience that I know they couldn't. So yeah, it's just like amazing things like that.
And I think obviously part of the journey with you is like, there are lots of key reasons why you do what you do. Like, it's not just about money.
No.
But you're a salesperson. Of course you think about money.
Yeah, and I'm not ashamed to say that. Like, I like making money. It gives me a kick.
Yeah. And I think
I like to push it. I like to push it to see how much more I can make and like where I could take it. I don't like to put ceilings on myself, because I've been given ceilings my entire life, so I just don't allow ceilings anymore. I
think you've broken those ceilings at this point.
Yeah. Well, now it's like there's new ones. There's always new ones.
There's always more.
My husband always tells me, don't chase numbers, because numbers are infinite. And I'm like, God, you're so wise.
So wise.
So fucking wise. It's true. So I don't chase the numbers, but I don't limit myself.
Oh, we all need a mic.
Yeah, we do. Everybody needs a mic.
He should be an advisor.
He should. He's my advisor.
I love that.
Yeah.
And what's in terms of for the company itself, obviously, I know you did an initial raise of, was it 1 point?
It was 1.2, but we ended up
1.2.
taking it was 1.8 in the end, because we was late getting product out, so we had to take more money. Again, stuff that you don't learn.
It happens.
When you, yeah.
No.
And then it was
raise.
30 million.
30 million raise. But that was relatively recently, because I remember that.
October 2023.
Yeah. So I remember when it was announced on LinkedIn.
What year are we in?
25.
Yeah, it was 23, I think.
Yeah.
October 23.
Yeah, I remember that announcement. I was like, oh my God, that gorgeous blonde lady just raised 30 million. And what's it for? An energy startup. I was like, what on earth is happening here? You're like breaking every single stereotype.
Yeah, I don't know. I like to wonder whether I'd have got that money if it was me on my own. Probably not. But, you know, because I had like a male co-founder and already a very high profile board. So I'm not sure, because there is still a massive gap for females getting funding. Not so convinced, even though that I was a big part of getting that cash, like the one selling the story, selling the dream.
Yeah.
In the management, in the leadership team, looking after sales and revenue and marketing, like big old job when you're on that. But we was actually going to IPO. So we was building the business to IPO.
What would that have meant for you financially? Ballpark.
Oh my God. It was just an obscene amount.
Like over, are we talking like more than 20 million?
For me as an individual.
As an individual.
Yeah. Didn't happen. Because the war in Ukraine happened and the market closed just as we was about to float. But I'm also grateful that it didn't now, because not because obviously the financial money I'd have been buzzing with, but I never got attached to it because it never happened. So I didn't allow myself to get attached to that. So
it wasn't like a huge come down when it didn't happen?
No. I was just like, I didn't believe it was going to happen. I thought, because I'm very much like that. I'm like, I'll believe it when I see it. Because a deal can always go wrong. It's never done until it's done. So yeah, that would have been crazy, but it would have also meant that the market completely crashed immediately after, and probably would have been extremely bad for me, because I'd have been a public face of a public company that then went from a ridiculous valuation to a very, very low valuation.
Okay, so
it could have been brutal.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of like I don't think it would have been very good for my mental health.
No.
So I'm like, okay. Everything happens for a reason. So we pivoted and we went for a dual, they call it a dual track process, where you're looking at multiple investors, private equity investors. And then we went with a company called EIP, Energy Impact Partners, to raise the 30 million. And HSBC had put some money in as well to support us, because they'd worked with us from the very beginning. And I'm glad we did, because the market got treacherous. So it was also good timing that we raised when we did, because the market became very tough.
It was a bad year for fundraising.
Yeah, and it was just bad for trade. It was bad for trade. So it was like a good job that we raised that cash, which helped us stay like afloat, helped us keep putting some money into innovation, developing new products, growing into other markets internationally.
What do you think the future holds in terms of energy conservation? And like, it's been such like I said, it's been a roller coaster, that market.
Yeah.
Like, what are your predictions?
I think green energy in the renewable industry and solar and home batteries and things like that are here to stay now. They're not heavily subsidized, and the market's growing nice and steadily.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing like these spiky peaks and troughs anymore. I think the electric vehicle market has taken off no matter what.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to be a little bit slower than originally anticipated, but it is happening. So I think we're just going to see this steady growth now. And I think the horse is bolted.
Yeah. So you're 35 now?
Yes.
Me too.
Oh, 35 sisters.
Built a multi-million-pound business. I haven't yet. You know, you've got a great little family unit in place.
Yeah.
You know, from the outside looking in, there's so much you have and you've achieved already at such a young age. Is there anything like on the list that you would really, I mean, if you're anything like me, you've written a list already in your phone, but
Yeah.
anything that you think by 40, say, I'd really like to do, or even just in life, what I'd really like to achieve?
I'd love to be able to say that I'd written a book. I'm not going to put the pressure on myself and do that if whether it takes 10 years, whether it takes 10 months. I'm starting to document what I've been through the last decade and what it means to be a female in business, because I get asked it all the time. So I would like to just like a bit of an autobiography story to this point, but in depth, like lessons and details and points that I've learned. I'd love to do that, but I'm not that academic and it might take a hot minute. I've always we're the same. We've got the same taste in podcasts. And I know no offense, Tom, Dick and Harry does have a podcast these days. Yeah. I would like my own. I'd love to do that. But I'm just allowing myself a bit of time, because there's also a side of me that might want to throw myself back into the corporate world while I've got the energy.
Oh.
Yeah. And I get a lot of requests, offers, jobs, and if something exciting came up, I wouldn't be totally boxed off from it. I'm interested in a lot of industries. I'm interested in a lot of things. It's a really long-winded answer, but I'm keeping options open. I'm at a weird crossroads in my life where I don't have to rush. I don't have to jump for the check. I don't have to put any pressure on myself. I can take the pick of the bunch, and I'm going to be very, very conscious of what I do next.
But it sounds extremely exciting though.
Thanks. We'll see. I might message you in 6 months and be like, help me. I don't know what I'm doing.
If you're messaging me in 6
Nobody
months
wants me.
after a £50 million company turnover, and you're like, hey, Claudia.
Yeah.
Small fry. No, not small fry.
You're not.
No.
Thank you for having me.
I've loved having you, honestly. Like I said, I've wanted you as a guest for so long, and you just you're so happy when you get that person as a guest on the show.
It was serendipitous, wasn't it?
It was serendipitous. Serendipitous. And I feel like I really, your story resonates with me, not the multimillionaire part yet, but the rest of it, there's a lot that resonates with me and makes me feel, I think it gives me, if it's giving me confidence and making me feel as though,
it's doable.
You know what, she did this.
Yeah.
She did that.
She did that.
She did that. Maybe I can. And I think that's why you in a position where you can help other women is going to be such an important thing. Because if even after one conversation, you've fired me back up. I was on a bit of a low the last week or two, working on my new business. And I'm just can I do it? Will it be good enough? Is it too much involved? But then even just a conversation with you, I've thought, I bloody can.
You can.
I can.
100% you can. If you can make 1 million, which I believe you can make 100.
That would be nice.
You'll do it.
Yeah.
Keep grafting.
I will keep grafting, and you keep grafting.
I will.
And this has been incredible. And I think anyone should listen to this, because this is an example to any of the girls that were told they couldn't.
Yeah, thank you.
Amazing things that can happen.
Thank you.
So thank you for being here.